Martha, do you think the canvassing was completed 100%?
No, because there were people that no matter what we did, I mean, I think everybody was visited. I really do think that everybody probably that did not turn in their census was visited, but there were people that just simply would not answer the door. And I know they followed that up with phone calls and with emails and all sorts of things, but I think there were people that just simply are afraid, and there's nothing to be afraid of, but they are, or they think that the government is too intrusive, and so they just simply would not do it, which is really too bad that there is that fear and that distrust now. I don't think it's always been there, but it's definitely there now. But we did our best. We did our best, and there were people that came up to, and I would go to their door and they'd say, "You are the 5th person that has been here." And I'd say, "Well, you know, because you're important, we came back, and you know, all you can do." But there were people, I mean, I had doors slammed in my face.
Yeah,
You know,
well, it's not submitted, it's.
kind of goofy, but you know, anyway. By the way, I had to leave the meeting and come back, and the reason I left is because my cat walked across the keys, and all of a sudden I couldn't hear anybody. So I had no idea what he did, but he did something.
That's a keyed up cat, huh?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
That would make a good song, Kitten on the Keys.
Oh, John. Yeah.
Very good.
Oh, mercy. So, how are you this morning, Jim Milburn?
Well, my scale is a little different than probably the cat was playing at your piano, but I'm weathering a storm. I was thinking in the back of my mind, Martha, that you need to create a travel log, say in the state of Oklahoma. Remember the guy on Channel 6 that's now retired that said, "Hey, what's the deal?"
Yes.
You're perfect for creating a travel log like that, and I think there's a future for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, it is time to start the meeting. Let me find my gong and officially start it. We're recording and we are official now. So let me share my screen and let Andy come on.
Good morning, Rotarians.
Okay, Andy, take it away.
Well, let's first start with a prayer. We'll bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful. We are so thankful to live in a country of freedom. We're thankful for opportunity to be together. I pray for those who are sick and for a speedy healing. In Jesus' name, amen. And for the pledge. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Back to you, Barbara.
Thank you. And now I'll stop sharing and Megan is on. So Megan, Sergeant at Arms, do your job.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So I'm looking around here. Do we have any guests? Any guests? Oh,
Has Laura been initiated?
yes, and she's
All right.
here. Yes, and so is Jessie. I don't know if Jessie's here. Okay. Well, if there are any guests that I'm missing, please speak up. Otherwise, we'll move on to birthdays and anniversaries. Yes, Martha.
Okay, Mike and I just celebrated our 44th wedding anniversary on October 9th and went out for a nice dinner at Bonefish Grill and got to sit in the bar area, which was really cool. We've never sat in the bar area before. We've always sat in the main big dining room. So it was kind of nice to have a little privacy and just have, we're old folk, but we're still, it's kind of nice to have a little romantic evening. So,
Yay. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
That's great. All right. Okay, anybody else? Any other birthdays or anniversaries? Okay. And if I can ask everybody to go on mute if you're not going to speak, I think I'm not sure, there's maybe some feedback or something. So I think we have quite a few people that aren't on mute, so maybe that will help. Sorry. Okay. Going once, going twice on the birthdays, anniversaries. Okay, how about some happy bucks? It's been a happy week, right?
I've got 2 happy bucks.
All right, Linda, go ahead.
First of all, my youngest, who I've told you all is working on her master's in social work. She got her chosen internship. She's with Parent and Child in the Child Abuse and Trauma section, which she's very, very excited about. So I'm very happy and proud of her. And our oldest is coming for Christmas. She told us yesterday. So they'll be here for 8 days.
All right.
That's great. All right. Something to look forward to. Okay, Joy, I see you waving.
Okay. I have a happy buck, and this is kind of I guess, tongue-in-cheek happy buck. But, when I signed up for Medicare, I took the high deductible Medicare BE because I'm never sick or need to go to the doctor. And my happy buck is I finally met my high deductible plan. I finally met the limit. I don't owe any more.
That's, yes. Just high deductible.
Sad, but true.
This is Tim. I have a couple of happy bucks.
All right.
So the first happy buck is that the Tulsa Opera performed last Friday night. It was fabulous. And then the Tulsa Symphony is performing this coming Sunday, which will be their second performance. I was listening to NPR on the way to work this morning, and they were talking about the opera companies that are forced to cut back, and some are closing around the nation. But we are the only opera company in Tulsa that has actually performed since March. And the Tulsa Symphony was the first symphony to actually have a live performance since March as well. So we really are leading the country in live music. So I just encourage you to go out and support them. It's vital, I think, to our community.
And what time is that on Sunday?
It's at 3 p.m. on Sunday.
3 p.m.
So it's, yeah, at the ballpark.
That's the Brahms one, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. What a great point, because also, there are 2 symphonies. So TCC also is a symphony, and they played at Driller Stadium as well.
Yes.
And on the 24th, they're going to be playing at Botanical Gardens. So, and I have to tell you, the concerts at Driller Stadium are just amazing. So definitely go out and support the symphonies and the opera, because they're great venues with the beautiful weather we've had. And everybody can be spaced really well. So thank you, Tim. All right, Stan, I see you.
Mute. There we go.
Okay.
I got off mute. I got a sad note for the Asburyans. They probably already know this, but Senior Pastor Emeritus Bill Mason died. And he was just a great guy. He married Barbara and I 44 years ago. More than that now. So just think about the family and Asbury Church. Thank you.
How
Thank
old was
you.
Bill?
I didn't see the age. I'm not sure. In the 80s, so.
Scott says he was 93.
Oh, in the 90s. Wow.
He was 93.
That's a good life.
Doxology.
Wow. Well, we'll keep the family in our thoughts and prayers, definitely. Okay, Mike, I see you waving.
I'm happy because I got a grandson that came home from school with a fever last week, and fever, headache, and we were concerned that it might have been the virus, but it was a virus, but it was just a flu virus and not anything to worry about. He finally got a COVID test and it came back negative, so we're out of quarantine, and I'm happy about that.
That's great. Yay, good to hear. Stay healthy. All right, I saw someone else waving. Bill Bowen.
Two happy bucks. One, we had a great installation for Laura and Jesse this past week at our board meeting with our district governor in attendance too. So extra special there. So glad that they're with us. Second, for all you folks who are stuck inside, you missed a great time at the youth ranch this past Saturday. Thanks to VJ and Megan and Janet and Janet's friend and Jim. We had a great time, did some trimming, and some extra special folks did some shoveling of what the horses left behind. And it was a lot of fun. That's a great time out there. They're always very grateful when we come out.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was so beautiful. It was the perfect day. The pasture. All right. Thank you, Bill. Martha, I see you waving.
And Martha,
you're still on mute. Martha, you're still on mute.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
I have two happy bucks. One, my middle son, Kel, who we never see, came into town this last weekend with his girlfriend. And Mike and I got to do our anniversary thing on Friday. On Saturday, he came in and we had time with him and his girlfriend. And then my other son came over, and then my other son's girlfriend's dad came over, and we had a big family time. And then Sunday we all went out to dinner. So it was a big family weekend. So that was really a happy one. And the other one was the Tulsa Oratory Chorus, which is now called Tulsa Chorale. We did a virtual concert at the Admiral Twin last night, and had a band out there, did a virtual Beethoven, two pieces of music that we recorded about a month ago, and they did it virtually, which was really, really cool. And then it was followed by the movie Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And it was really well attended, and it was a new thing for us. So it was really cool.
That's great, Martha. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Oh, Joy, you got something else?
I'm back. My good happy buck is that tomorrow Fred and I are going to Bentonville to see the Ansel Adams. I think somebody else has already been to see, maybe Mike Bibby. No? But anyway, going to Crystal Bridges to see the Ansel Adams exhibit. And then and we're taking our 10-year-old great niece. And she's so excited to be going out of town. Isn't it wonderful when they're too young to know they're going with a bunch of old people? And then I just wanted to also say that yesterday I got my flu shot, and I got it at the Warren Clinic, and they have a drive-through operation that is just slick as it can be. So if you're driving down Yale and you turn right there past the, it looks like a big bunker.
6600 South Yale.
Yeah, go up the hill and you'll see it. They've got signs telling you, and it took 5 minutes. And so it's really a slick operation, and I would highly recommend it.
Okay, thank you, Joy. All right, any other happy Becks? I'm looking. All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I think it sounds like it was a really good week. That's good. All right, well, I have a short and sweet joke. I think I heard some talk about the census. Martha, this is in honor of you and the census, because there are a lot of census jokes out right now. And this says a census, some of them are pretty bad though. I have to say, like a little on the, let's say politically incorrect side. So hopefully this one isn't. A census taker in a rural area went up to a farmhouse and knocked. When a woman came to the door, he asked how many children she had and their ages. She said, well, let me see now. There's twins, Sally and Billy, they're 18. And then the twins, Seth and Beth, they're 16. And then the twins, Penny and Jenny, they're 14. And he said, hold on. I said, did you get twins every time? And the woman answered, heck no. There were hundreds of times we didn't get nothing. Sorry. I guess these are pretty bad.
That's good. I like that.
All right.
Oh,
So
okay.
my show is over.
Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen now. Let's see. And last week's winner of the Sharp Eyes contest was Linda Ortega. She found amazing instead of Amazon. And we already have a winner for this week's, and it's, I believe, it's Barney and Ellie. Instead of going to a hybrid format, which I hoped we could do this month, and we're not there yet, it was published as a hybrid floor mat, where floor mats are interesting, but that was the error. So you'll be getting another card. And this one, I'm going to send it to Ellie instead of Barney this time, because he already got one. So there we go. Now, as I will tell you, we did have our induction of our new members on Monday evening, and I recorded it. It's about 10 minutes long, and I want to give them the honor of everyone seeing their induction into Sunrise Rotary. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to try and fix this. So, and for some reason, come on, let's play. Oh no, don't tell me. Okay, well, we're going to have to come back to that. I apologize. It's worked this morning, so I don't know what's going on. Moving on, we'll get that fixed. I may have to show it to you next week and figure out what I did wrong. We are going to have an in-person meeting, and it's going to be October 28th, and it will be out at the Tulsa Glassblowing School. And we're going to have it at 9 o'clock. That's when they open. And I really encourage everybody to come. It's a large facility. It's out at the old McClure Park building out there off of about 7th and Yale, I think. And we'll get the address published in the fundraiser. They have huge facility out there, and it's really fascinating to watch them do the glass blowing. And if anyone would like to stay after the regular Rotary meeting and create your own, they've offered to do that. So I think that'll be great fun. It'll be 9 o'clock on the 28th out at the glass blowing. And we will be socially distanced, and we will not have any, coffee or rolls or anything, because it's at 9 o'clock. And I encourage you all to do that, to go out there, because one of the things they do is they work with veterans. They have a class just for veterans and those who are having difficulty assimilating back into society. So they have it's called a Hot Time in the Old Town Tonight or something like that fundraiser. And I'm not sure that they had it last week or not, but they display a lot of the works that are for sale that the veterans have done. So it's a really worthwhile thing to go do. So with that, I'm going to give it to Mike, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Barbara, may I ask, are we having our 7 o'clock meeting, and then those that want to come in person, are there 2 meetings or just the one?
It's just the one meeting.
Okay.
And we will not have any business session. We'll just go out there and enjoy what they're doing at the glass blowing school. And before we go on to Andy, I do want to say how special it was to have the induction of our new members on Monday evening. Carolyn dialed in from Angel Fire, and she was one of the presenters, as well as our other past presidents. And to me, what really was special, it spoke to me about the breadth of Rotary. We had a new member in Laura, who is a third-generation Rotarian. She's always wanted to be a Rotarian. And in the beginning, women were not Rotarians, and she loved it that she could become one. And she's been involved in many Rotary clubs. And on the other hand, we have Jesse, who is new to Rotary. It's a new concept for him. He's been very impressed with the friendship that's been offered from Sunrise. And it was interesting to me, he talked about growing up, his family would have been maybe one of the ones who received the help from Rotary, and now he's in a position to give back. So I thought that really spoke highly about all the different kinds of members that we have in our organization. So I'm so glad they're on here, and I'm not sure why I can't get the induction to play. Maybe I can't screen share it and do it at the same time. I don't know.
You need to rewind the film.
I did. No, I did. It just didn't do. I don't know. I'll get it figured out. Meanwhile, I'm going to give it back over to Andy. And Andy, you are, oh, no, wait, no, I'm sorry. Mike Bibby. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay.
You can share.
Time for the pot of gold. There are 13, yeah, you can see 13 coupons in here. And I'm drawing one. And the name is Ellie Tonquist.
Oh, no.
And so now I'm going to share my screen.
Gotta pick a number.
What number do you want?
I don't know. Let's see what's available.
Okay, there's the numbers.
You know they're not available.
We know that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see that, Ellie?
I can, but I think 7 should be X'd out. We did that a few weeks ago.
You're right, and I will take care of that.
Okay. What do you want?
But you still have to choose one.
Then I choose 8, please.
8. All right, she's choosing 8. Okay. Here we go. I don't know if you can even see that, but there's card number 8. Card 8. And it is 8 of clubs, Ellie.
Well, thank you. We'll try again next week.
Yes, I expect it. I hope everybody else will too. I'd like to see more participants. Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Send your money to Mike so you can be in the drawing next week, everybody.
Hey, Barbara,
Yes.
could I do one quick reminder? This Saturday, Jenks Food Bank, 9 o'clock. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to,
We got one person signed up, so anybody, they can take a maximum of 3. We talked about it at the board meeting, said maybe they were doing more now. I sent them a note asking and haven't heard back yet if that is still the case, we'll do 3 or if we need more, but at least 3, and we've got one person coming, and so that's available for service.
okay, I also have a request from VJ. He's gotten a donation from someone who's closing out their 501c3, and there are a lot of things, wheelchairs and some other items, and he needs help getting those things loaded up today and tomorrow. So if you can help VJ at all after the meeting today, give him a ring. And also if you can help tomorrow, the items are not going to be particularly heavy. So I don't think you need to worry about whether you can handle them or not. So he needs 2 to 3 people, same people both days or different people both days, but he could really use some help. So thank you for that. And let's go back to real quick. Let me get back to where I am. Okay, share the screen one more time. Okay, I'm gonna keep showing the screen until it gets better. As you can see, the numbers are not any better, so we're still not gonna have our floor mat meeting. So we will continue on from there. Stop sharing, and now we'll go to Andy as Rotarian of the Day.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let me bring the screen up here real quick. I'll get better at this sometime. Okay, there we go, Andy.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so thought I'd put a little bit of recap of about me. And first off, I became a Rotarian when my boss, a photographer named Don Jurek I worked for, suggested that I join a service organization. And the first one I thought of was of my first boss, Ray Orff, who's a South Side Rotarian. I remember his experiences. And one day, a customer came in and I helped this lady named Shirley Walker. Conversation came up, and so her husband, Don, invited me to a meeting. And that meeting was when they talked about the Tulsa Aquarium Project, which was now the Jinx Aquarium Project, but that was the topic of it. So anyway, became a Rotarian before marriage. The engagement portrait behind my shoulder is actually Sherry and I in October of '89 in, let me see, Bolivar Peninsula. So we were married in April of '90. We just celebrated 30 years. And we have a biological son who is 23, who is a college student in Abilene, Texas. And we have adopted an older son, Christian, who's 26, and a daughter who is 20. Her name is Aida. So she is from Volgograd, Russia, and Christian is from, where's he from? Kharkov, Ukraine. And so anyway, those are very interesting stories on our travels to another part of the world that you wouldn't go on purpose. And so anyway, those raising our children have been an adventure, and I'm glad it's behind us on some aspects, should I say. So anyway, but life's good. So work, I am a professional photographer. I photograph people. Claim to fame is I photographed Bill Bowen's wedding. That is a big claim to fame right there. So anyway, over 30 some years, I photographed over 1,200 weddings. Presently, I'm photographing schools. There are private schools that I do their school pictures. And so the majority of my work is done between September and December. And when I'm not doing that, we have multifamily rental property that we got into that about, started 20 years ago. So that's been a interesting adventure, a very fruitful adventure like that. So hobbies. So this last weekend, I got my sort of license to drive a sailboat. So I have an ASA certification now, Bill Lawson. By the way, I photographed Bill's wedding too. And so anyway, started the sailing thing. So that's something that Sherry and I both enjoy, is sailing and lots of other fun stuff. So I want to go ahead and turn it on to our speaker. And I met the speaker when she originally started the Elate restaurant, and I remember some type of wedding fair of such. And anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing her program, and I turn it over to Libby.
Okay, hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So I apologize. It looks like my screen says my name is Layla Ald, and that is because that's my daughter's name, and we are working through the issues of distance learning. And one of those is that she's always borrowing my computer, and apparently now I'm logged in as Layla Ald. So hopefully she doesn't get on for class and mess this up at all from another room. But so my name is Libby Billings, and thank you guys so much for having me. I own 3 restaurants in downtown Tulsa. They're Elote, The Vault, and Roppongi. And little background of kind of how I got here. I'm from Tulsa, and I went to Booker T. Washington High School. And then I can't say that I was the best student back in the day. I'm much more of a hands-on learner, which obviously is why I thrive in the restaurant industry. But when it came time to go to college, my father was set on me going to school. So he encouraged me to go to OSU IT, and I ended up getting my degree in culinary arts. I'm a big advocate for tech schools now, because I do think so many people are non-traditional learners and they kind of get set up for failure whenever they go to a traditional university. So I like to encourage people who learn differently to explore tech school. But so I went to OSU IT in Okmulgee and did a brief internship in Chicago with a pretty famous chef, Rick Bayless. He won Celebrity Top Chef one time, and he's a Tulsa native. And so I worked at his restaurants for a little while and then came back to Tulsa, and sort of from there worked as chefs, sous chefs, restaurant managers, all over the Tulsa restaurant scene. And then ended up opening Elote about 12 years ago in downtown. I was young, and I was not aware that we were about to have like the housing crisis and all the things that came with just the market crashing and oil prices dropping, et cetera. But I was excited to open a restaurant, and so I opened Elote in downtown. At the time that it opened, it was just Monday through Friday lunches. Elote focuses on fresh, innovative Mexican food using local products and sustainable practices, and that's really a market that was not being tapped in Oklahoma. People weren't really interested in recycling or buying organically or vegetarian items, but I always sort of joke that I was raised by hippies, which is kind of true. My mom's from California. My dad's a photographer, and they, artists. And so they just instilled in me a lot of positive environmental practices. And so whenever I was working in the restaurant industry, I saw a lot of negative environmental practices, a lot of waste. And so I knew that whenever I opened my own restaurant, that I would make sure and just try and do things right for the earth. And so when I opened Elote, that was kind of one of my, it was a niche for sure, that we compost, recycled, bought as much local foods as possible, used organic beef, free-range chicken, free-range eggs, things like that. And so we ended up getting a pretty large base of what I would call a conscious consumer, somebody who is intentional with how they spend their money, not just focused on convenience, which was really great because it was not convenient at the time to be downtown. There weren't a lot of people down there. Most of the streets were one way. It was just very early in the revitalization. But I bootstrapped it, worked really, really hard. I took out a $30,000 loan from the small business that was backed by the Small Business Administration. And basically, we got a negative review within the first couple months of the restaurant being open. And it was like, this place looks like they just slapped some paint on the wall. I'm like, that's exactly what we did. Okay. So it was, but I was putting forth my best effort. And after about 9 months of being open, just lunches, the BOK Center opened. And word started getting out that there was this Mexican restaurant that was non-traditional, that had, organic options and just wasn't your kind of greasy Mexican restaurant. And so people started really wanting to come see us. But unlike most of the other restaurants in downtown that were slower on bank holidays, we were busier. And I think that was because people who outside of our little walking area wanted to come try the food. They had heard about it. And so we took a leap and opened evenings and weekends, because when like I said, the BOK Center opened. So opened for evenings and weekends and did decent. We're somewhat successful with that. It was still really hard to draw people downtown because aside from the BOK Center, there wasn't a ton going on. So I started kind of focusing on putting on events. And so I had, in the first few years of Elote being opened, I would put on all these street festivals. Like we had a salsa fest where people would, different restaurants and people from home cooks would make salsas, and we would have a salsa tasting contest, and there would be a Chihuahua race and like funny things like that. Elote started doing luchadors, which is kind of one of the things that's kind of wacky that I'm well known for, and that I did not anticipate in my life, that I would be a licensed professional wrestling promoter. But if you don't know what luchadors are, I encourage you to Google them at some point. Essentially, it is a masked Mexican wrestler. They fight good versus evil in these crazy theatrical costumes, and it's really fun. And at Elote, we have luchador wrestling. Obviously, we're on pause right now due to COVID, but at least it's usually about 6 to 10 times a year, but every year on Cinco de Mayo, we close down the street in front of Elote and we get thousands of people out. And it's just a fun, colorful thing that you would have never thought would happen in Tulsa. So we introduced the luchadors. That brought us a lot of notoriety and a lot of people people wanted good things for Tulsa, and they wanted something fun and unique. Did that. realized during the holiday season that downtown was slower. I had worked at a lot of restaurants where during the holiday season business picked up, but downtown, my restaurant was actually slow during the holiday season. And that was because I realized that everyone who worked downtown was leaving on their lunch hour to go shopping. This was pre-internet shopping. And then also there wasn't a reason to come downtown at night. If you needed to shop in the evenings, you weren't coming downtown. So I formed a little neighborhood association and got all my neighbors together. And essentially we took the vacant buildings that were surrounding us and asked for the city to waive like temporary occupancy restrictions, et cetera. And we got a bunch of young or existing entrepreneurs to open a small shopping district for about a month and a half. And we called it the pop-up shops. And we kind of created a downtown shopping district. And we did that for about 3 years. It would go from the Sunday after Thanksgiving until Christmas, essentially. So it was just sort of a way to drive traffic downtown. So those were the kinds of things I did in the beginning of opening Elote to just draw attention to downtown and to create more of a community and just to be, just to be innovative and try and get people to come to my restaurant, because I knew once they came in the door, they would enjoy the food, but they would have to have an excuse to get there. So did all those kinds of things and then started seeing the growth in the Bloom District and the Arts District and really realizing that what was successful about those districts was just that there was a cluster of businesses. And so when you go out downtown or when you go, to Utica Square or something like that, you go there because you have a lot of options, and there just weren't a lot of options. There were a lot of vacant buildings around me. So I started considering opening up a second restaurant, and I did that, 3.5, 4 years after Elote opened, I opened up the Vault, and that is, it's in an old auto bank. It was First National Auto Bank, which if any of you guys remember, it was across the street from Central High School. The building is from the outside a little bit of a relic. It's like a time capsule, but if you go inside, we've done a really great job of preserving the inside of the building. It's beautiful mid-century modern architecture. It's got the largest windows in Oklahoma, and essentially it's classic American fare and craft cocktails. Again, I was just a little bit ahead of the game on the craft cocktail scene because when I opened the Vault, the other restaurants like Hodge or the other bars that are focusing on craft cocktail culture like Hodge's Bend and Valkyrie were not open yet. And so again, we had a little bit of an advantage there and became really popular right whenever we opened, again, because it was something to do downtown that was different and unique. And I was sort of just trying to build a little bit of a neighborhood and a community. There were a few restaurants starting to open up. And then, but I had some pretty big vacant buildings on either side of Elote. And essentially the reason that was, as opposed to what was happening in the Arts District and the Blue Dome District, is that those buildings are all, two-story buildings. Elote, the Vault, and Roppongi reside in the Deco District, which is essentially the core of downtown, where the buildings are 10 plus stories tall. So renovating a 10-story building is a significantly larger cost than renovating a 2-story building. And so it just took a lot of time. I would not consider myself a patient person by any means, but I've had to be very patient with waiting for my neighbors to acquire the funds and decide to invest in their buildings, which they have now since done, which makes me very happy because I have an apartment complex on one side and a full office building on the other with restaurants in the bottom of it. So it's really great. But we were, unbeknownst to me, trying to build this little community in the Deco District. A little Cajun place opened up across the street, catty corner from Elote, in a spot that had been 2 or 3 restaurants prior to that were just Monday through Friday days. And the Cajun restaurant opened up it's called LaSalle's, and it was just Monday through Friday day. But what I was finding is that while I appreciate my downtown 9-to-5 neighbors, in order for us to thrive in the evening, people feel safest whenever there are other people around. So if only Elote is open, that means only my patio is open. That means nobody else is dining. People you feel a little unsafe out there. So when my neighbor at LaSalle's told me that he was moving from his space into a larger space, I just jumped on it. I said, okay, I want your building. I want your space. Don't tell anybody you're leaving yet. And so I immediately contacted his landlord and said, I want your space. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had recently heard that ramen was kind of like a new, and we're not talking about like your 99-cent college ramen. We're talking about a little bit more elevated ramen, noodles made from scratch, broth made from scratch, etc. So I can't look at these questions while I'm talking to you guys. I get distracted. I'll have to look at them at the end. Sorry. But I
Libby,
decided
you can
to.
shut that down, and I'll monitor the questions at the end of your
It's
presentation.
okay if
So,
people ask. I just got to remember not to look. I'm sorry.
okay.
Okay. So I kind of jumped on the opportunity and decided to open up a ramen restaurant. And that is Roppongi. So Roppongi turns 3 in a couple, maybe 4. Oh man, in a couple weeks. That kind of bridged the gap between Elote and the Vault, because Elote and the Vault are separated by about a block. And so over the course of the past few years, we've kind of modified the menu to not just be exclusively ramen. We've added some different items because, as it turns out, people don't really want hot soup in Oklahoma in July. Who knew? So we've had to add some, salads and banh mi and different things to our menu. And just this year added shaved ice, kakigori, which is a Japanese shaved ice. So just, again, trying to always innovate and modify to transition with what can be successful. So that's sort of how I got here. I don't have any investors. Like I said, I started with a small loan that was backed by the SBA. I've continuously grown and built on the success of Elote in order to acquire more loans to open up other businesses. And then I'm proud to say that in December of 2019, I paid off my final loan. So I am officially debt free, actually own my businesses myself. Thank you. Thank you. And then I was like, I'm going on vacation. Life is going to be good. And then COVID hit. So as I'm sure you guys have all heard, COVID has been hard on the restaurant industry, certainly. I had my older brother lives in California, and in kind of early March, he called me and he said, Libby, you need to be prepared, like COVID is happening. And it was at that time, we were all making jokes about drinking Corona and all this stuff. We didn't know what was going on. And then, I think it was maybe the first week in March, he was like, you need to make a plan for what you're going to do because you're going to have to close your restaurant. I was like, you're crazy. He's kind of my paranoid brother anyways. I thought it was a little bit wild, but I started paying a little bit more attention to the global news and realized like he is onto something. And so I was a pretty early adapter of the safety protocols. I actually was the first restaurant to close down to just go to go. And I don't, again, as I was saying, like my clientele are very conscious consumers. And so I think that was really well received by my community. I've since been interviewed a few times about mask mandates and things like that, and that we're upholding. And I've gotten some flack from the anti-masking community about our stance on that. But I really think, for us, we feel like it is the right thing to do, but also it's benefited our business significantly by just taking all the precautions possible. Because like I said, we do have such conscious consumers that are really looking out. They want to do the best thing for the world, whether it's through their, that they want to support a company that's recycling or that they want to help slow the spread of the virus. So we shut down in March and went to straight to goes. And then business, it was just such an unpredictable time. Business was really challenging. And so we ended up closing for about 2 weeks. I kept all my management staff on. This was right before the PPP came out. I kind of guaranteed them about a month of pay because at that time, nobody knew what was going to happen, and then it was actually 2 wonderful weeks. I have never had a staycation since I opened the restaurant. So I don't know if anybody else had that experience, but just while it was, pending financial doom and fear, also getting 2 weeks off work to be at home with my family was pretty lovely for the first time in a long time. But took a lot of time, reflected, and then decided to reopen the restaurants on to-go only. The Vault is a little bit more upscale. So we actually did close that restaurant for 2 months. We partnered with an organization called Tulsa Kitchens Unite. And what we did was we kept our staff on to cook meals for underprivileged families that were passed out through Tulsa Public Schools. So that was a really good way to keep my staff engaged, keep my team working together. We also used that time to get a new computer system. We've been doing like remodeling inside the restaurant, just making repairs to the business. I knew I was going to reopen. It never, aside from those first 2 weeks when just everything was unpredictable, I always knew I was going to reopen. It was just a matter of when is the right time, because what I was seeing trend wise is that the more upscale restaurants were not as successful right now because number one, people were concerned about their finances. And then also just because it doesn't lend itself to go business as well. So the Vault stayed closed longer than Elote and Roppongi did. But in that time, I actually modified my menu and made it a little more affordable and made it just a more approachable place to eat, which had always really been my intention for the Vault. But whenever the Vault opened, people wanted, more upscale dining experience because there weren't all the other upscale dining restaurants in downtown yet. So anyways, kind of melded back to my original plan for the restaurant, stayed closed, but we reopened, I think it was late May, I believe, and have been doing really well. The Vault does a lot of private events, which has been hit. And then also our downtown Monday through Friday business has been hit pretty significantly because I think there's, something like 27,000 people that work downtown, and a lot of them are not back to work. I mean, the big companies like Williams, One Oak, et cetera, they're not back in the office yet, most of the people. And so that's our lunches, where we used to just be so busy. I mean, it was crazy. Our lunch sales are down by like 75% at the Vault and Elote. But what we've done is just kind of acclimated and tried to focus on other areas. So for example, while we were closed at Elote, the farmers market is something that we've been a part of for about 10 years. And I have this vintage 1981 yellow Volkswagen bus, and we pull it out and sell tacos out of it, and people love it. It's a great community. Well, when opening day of the farmers market didn't come back in April because COVID was going on, and the city wasn't allowing the farmers market to take place, we took the Volkswagen bus and delivered tacos to people's houses. So they would call in, place their order online, and we'd show up in that yellow Volkswagen bus on Saturday morning and honk and drop them off, and their kids would come running. And it was just like a super great experience. And that was when, the stay-at-home order was in place. And so we were just trying to do things to make it work and to keep my employees engaged and to generate a little bit of revenue. And certainly without the PPP money, I would not have been able to make it. So I'm really fortunate that our government stepped in there. But through that, and then just some other things we've done, like I said, we added a new computer system that allows us to do contactless payment. It also allows us to take orders outdoors now with handheld computers. Elote and Roppongi are doing about 75% of their business outside of our front doors. So Roppongi's sales are not down because to-go orders do really well, and Asian food lends itself really well to to-go food. We've also added a walk-up window, so now people can order, and it's like sort of like a drive-through, but instead you walk up and grab your food. We've added the city help pushed for curbside takeout for downtown restaurants that don't have parking spots. And so now you can pull up and park at the curb and just get out and walk 10 feet and grab your food, as opposed to, as everybody knows about, downtown parking is maybe not our favorite thing. So really, between the help from the city and, just what we're trying to do, we've really just acclimated as best as we possibly can to have a safe environment for our customers. And I think that's really, just being comfortable and flexible, pivoting a little bit has really been to my advantage, because like I said, a significant amount of our business is outside the doors. And so figuring out ways to make that easy for our customers has been really important. Another thing that we have done is at Elote, we have taken over 2 parking spots out front of Elote and built what's called a parklet. So for a few years now, I've been participating in an event called Parking Day, which is put on by like the American Institute of Architecture, I believe. And essentially it's an international day where people take over parking spots and reimagine what it would look like if parking spots were turned into parks. So I was familiar with Parking Day and with that idea. And then a few years back, a consultant by the name of Jeff Speck came to Tulsa and made some recommendations for downtown about how to make our city more walkable, because essentially more walkable cities are more healthy cities, and those attract younger talent. And that means that we can kind of grow economically. So it's a way to get to economic prosperity without just 100% looking at, dollar signs, essentially, looking at human beings and their best health. And so I had been really interested in the idea of parklets, but the city was moving very slowly on implementing a parklet program. With COVID happening, they kind of expedited that process and implemented the parklet program, but it was meant for pre-COVID times in regards to how to receive your parklet permit. So as soon as it came out, I started applying for the permit, but it was taking a very, very long time to get through the planning department. And so another friend who's a restaurateur got a little bit upset and brought this to his city councilor, who took it before the city council and allowed us to emergency certify our parklet. So instead of doing all the information in advance and having somebody in the city come out and check it. Basically, I could say, I did everything you asked, built it, come check it when you have time. And so when I heard that was going to city council, I called my husband and I was like, babe, what do you think about staying staying up all night and building a parklet? Because I knew that it was going to benefit our business, as well as I knew that we would get some free publicity essentially from doing that. And we did. We ended up on the front page of the Tulsa World because the day that city council voted on it, I had the parklet built the next day by noon. And it's beautiful. So essentially 2 parking spaces in front of Elote are lined with these big galvanized tubs that are full of flowers, and they have big beams in them and lighting around it, and all new tables and chairs. And so we added, between the parklet and what is called a sidewalk dining cafe permit, we added 10 extra tables outdoors in front of Elote. And we've been really fortunate because there's actually a loan out there, a reset loan out there through the Tulsa Economic Development Corporation that allows, it's a loan, but if you utilize the funds to make your company more COVID like you can use it for buying masks, you can use it for buying tools for your employees to work at home. Well, in the restaurant industry, that means to like make my work environment more safe, it means adding more patio seating. So I'm really fortunate because it means that I basically have revamped all of my patios, added heaters, better lighting, just made everything a lot better. And thankfully it's going to be, paid for by the CARE Act. So those are some of the things that I'm doing right now to stay afloat throughout COVID. We're doing pretty well, honestly. I'm very thankful, like I said, that I paid off my businesses back in December, because it would have certainly been a lot harder had I had that overhead. And I think the restaurants that are really struggling are the ones that are new enough that they have that high overhead, with their loan payment, or they're just not established, or the really large ones that have always been in that like large growth stage, which could have been me back, a couple years ago whenever I was trying to, open a couple of restaurants. But right now, I don't have any intention of opening any more restaurants. I really want to focus on doing my job better right now, and just being able to, purchase more food locally, and just grow what I already have, because the bigger we get, the more kind of spread out I get, and it just gets a little bit stressful. And my kids are in high school now, and I'd like to spend as much time with them as possible before they leave the nest. So yeah, that's my story. And
Well, I love your restaurants. We've got some questions out there, so if you don't mind, I'll read a few of them to you, and you can respond as you will. First one was from Jesse regarding the luchadora. How do you get involved, or do you get involved with wrestling for a cause? And I don't know what that is.
I don't know what wrestling for a cause. We're not involved in wrestling for a cause. Is that maybe I need some clarification. I'm not sure what that is.
Jesse, you want to answer that?
Yeah, nothing big. It's just that I know they're a charitable organization that puts on wrestling matches. They used to do it out of the stadium, and I haven't heard of too many people with ties to the wrestling world, so that's the only reason I asked, because I was wondering where you actually found your wrestlers.
Oh, okay. So the wrestlers began basically as my employees and friends. So to become a licensed professional wrestler, it's not, you just have to take a blood test and, take a blood test and pay. It's more of a fear attacks, honestly. And we are licensed and sanctioned by the Oklahoma Boxing Commission, and we have a commissioner come out to every one of our events. I have the same promoter's license as the BOK Center has to have like WWE wrestling, which is very silly in my opinion. But I've tried to kind of argue it before, because I don't feel like what we're doing is the same as what they're doing necessarily. But alas, what happened is originally when I opened, when we had wrestling, we weren't licensed, and we got the local indie wrestling circuit, there is such a thing, got upset that we were having wrestling and we weren't sanctioned. They reported us and turned us into the Boxing Commission. And I hired an attorney and kind of fought it, because I'm like, this isn't really wrestling. It's all pre-planned and it's mostly theatrics. But the Boxing Commission said, nope, if you're slamming people on the ground, you gotta become licensed. So I had to get bonded and licensed, and it's a whole big mess. And anyways, it turned out that becoming a professional wrestler is very easy. you could all do it. If you would like to be able to have a little card in your wallet that says that I'm a professional wrestler, you can. You just go online for the OSACC and do that. But as far as how my wrestlers learn to wrestle, it sadly was like YouTube. Like we literally watched YouTube backyard wrestling videos in the beginning. I now have a gentleman, his name is Ray Martinez, and I'm not entirely sure how he learned to be a wrestling coach, but he's been wrestling for a very long time, and he kind of trains everybody as far as safety. I have some rules. There are all these crazy, I can't believe that this is my life and what I talk about, but there are like moves called pile drivers and things that like focus on making it look like you're hurting someone's neck, and I don't allow anything like that in my ring because that is how people do actually get hurt. So I have a set of rules, but other than that, you know, sometimes like my favorite wrestlers, they honestly have like 4 moves that they do, but that are really easy and don't hurt that much. I mean, some of them are like in their 50s and they do these 4 moves over and over, but it's about their theatrics. It's about their character development. So it's kind of like a little mini, I mean, it is theater. It is 100% theater. So yeah, the luchador started out as a couple of my employees and friends and family. And then over time, people would say, I want to be a wrestler. And so I had made like a wrestling application, and people would write out who they wanted their character to be and all this stuff, and we'd train them, and there it is.
Okay, next question, Libby. From Jim, how are you able to maintain the late 10 p.m. hours for elote? I'm not sure what that means, but.
Does that mean how do I maintain those hours? Like, are we busy till 10 p.m. or how do I personally work late hours as a restaurant owner?
I do not know.
Well, from a perspective, Libby, that having worked downtown over the years, that 10 p.m. is still perceptually thinking that the sidewalks roll up and there's not that much activity in the general areas where your venue is. And my concern is, how do you do that until 10 o'clock on weekdays, particularly?
Yeah. So, you know, the perception of downtown is very different than the reality of downtown. And unfortunately, because of COVID, it has kind of regressed a little bit. But just because there aren't, you know, downtown thrives when there's an event at the PAC, an event at the ballpark, and something at the BOK Center, and an art walk, and all those things. When those things are happening, you could bring your college-age child back to Tulsa, and there's a good chance they decide to stay forever because it is bustling downtown. Right now, like I said, because of the lack of events, it's a little bit, there are less people, but you know, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the professional bull riding event was at the BOK Center. There are these things called Lime scooters, which are the little scooters that you can ride around that are electric, and those are very popular downtown. It's like, it's something to do. So kids, adults, I mean, I do this with my children. This is what we do for fun. We rent Lime scooters and just ride around downtown and go up and down the parking garages and, you know, just see downtown because it's fun and beautiful. So I think you'd be surprised if you came downtown how busy it actually is. Again, because of COVID, it's a little bit slower right now, but we do good business. And I think, I mean, of course, you know, like most businesses or most restaurants, you know, your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights are a little slower. We do have, like, Elote has $2 puppy tacos on Wednesdays. The Vault has live vinyl music, so women spins records on our patio on Wednesday nights. And Rapongi does half price ramen on Thursdays. So we do some things to help with the slower weeknights, but it's not always that bad. I mean, Wednesdays are actually pretty busy because when church was in session, families would drop their kids off at church and then go have a date night, which I thought was really cute for parents to do. Great idea. But it's, you know, it can be slower, but definitely on weekends, it's busy downtown. It's really fun to go downtown. If you haven't been in a long time, to go downtown on a Saturday night and look around like, oh, where are all these people, you know? And then we have quite a few hotels in my neighborhood, as well as the Meridia apartment complex was built next door to me, and that has 70 units. And so we're continuously, I mean, it feels very alive on Elote's patio at nighttime. There's just people hustling and bustling in and out of their apartment, and there's a Dollar General next door, and we're busy. So yeah, we make it happen.
It's a different downtown than it used to be. Got a comment from Joy. She said that before her mom died, their family celebrated her folks' anniversary every year at the Vault. Her dad used to work downtown and really enjoyed visiting his old bank. And that's really sweet. Don Wasson wants to know how you ended up naming your restaurant Elote.
So elote is it's essentially Mexican street corn. So like how we have hot dog vendors in America, they have eloteras in Mexico, and they push a cart that has like a grill attached to it and then a whole bunch of seasonings and so elote is grilled corn with mayonnaise, Parmesan cheese, chili powder, and lime juice. We do like an aioli. We kind of blend everything together, but I don't know how I got that. I mean, I think that just ended up being my name. I had a bunch of different name options, and I knew that one thing about elote is that a lot of Mexican restaurants, you can go in there and feel kind of not your best self after you leave because you eat 2 cheese enchiladas with beans and rice, and you're like, ooh, filled up on chips and salsa and didn't get a vegetable. So it was important to me whenever I opened elote. My kids were very young at the time, and I wanted to make sure that there was a place that I could eat every day and not feel that way, and also that I could, feel comfortable bringing my family to have meals. So elote has always had a high number of families, and specifically like if you just do a customer count, we tend to serve more women, and I think it's just because of like health concerns. And so we have always had, instead of menu items only having the option of beans and rice, we've always had these roasted sweet potatoes and elote on the menu, and that's just because I wanted to offer some nutrient rich and healthier options than just the traditional beans and rice. So elote, that's how elote got its name, from the eloteras.
And they are absolutely delicious. Are your restaurants offering inside dining yet?
Yes, they all 3 offer inside dining. We've continued to follow the protocol from what was phase 2 of the shutdown, which was or the reopening plan, which is that we are continuing to do 6-foot distancing between tables. We uphold the mask mandate, and we're pretty serious about it. We don't think it's that much to ask of our customers to just put on a mask when they walk from their door to their table or from their table to the restroom. People get very upset about it, but we give free masks. We try to be as nice as possible and just say, hey, it's just like I won't serve your child an alcoholic beverage if they wanted one. This is just a rule that we're following. So giving out free masks has been one thing. But we do have inside dining, and I'm knocking on wood because this is insane, but none of my employees have contracted COVID, and we've been open since mid-May.
That's great.
Indoor dining, I think, was mid-June probably, but yeah, we have 6-foot distancing between tables. We are doing a ton of patio business, and there's not many people dining indoors at Elote and Roppongi. Most of our business is outdoors, and I'm a little bit concerned about what that means for the winter, just with our sales. But like I said, we've added heaters to our patios and things. But at the vault, the clientele at the vault is not as concerned about contracting the virus. Also, the vault has like two-story glass windows, so it's very open. I think people feel safe there because it's really spread out. We've removed about 30% of our dining room tables that are indoors, so really spread out. And then there's a lot of air, like it's a huge open airy space. So yeah, we've been doing indoor dining. And just wearing masks all the time. But we were just talking about that yesterday. We're like, how is nobody, because the numbers are something like 20% of all Oklahomans have had COVID. I'm like, how have none of my employees gotten COVID? And they're like, well, you always yell at us when we take our masks off. I'm like, oh, okay, that's right. So I don't know if that's anything to do with it. But.
Okay, quick question here. The space you took for Elote was where Nelson's Buffeteria used to be. So the question from Andy, have you thought of a Nelson's chicken wrap taco?
Oh, good idea. Like Hello Chicken Fry. I had not thought of that, but I'll put it in the thought bank and keep it there just in case.
Okay, Jesse has a question. How much time are you actually spending in the kitchen at this point in your career?
Not very much. I probably spend more time in the kitchen at my house than I do the kitchen at the restaurants these days. So yeah, it kind of depends on what's going on in the restaurants. If there's like private event, so one thing that has changed with COVID is that so I'm the only chef in the businesses. I have kitchen managers and a lot of cooks, but I'm like the only chef. So whenever it comes to creating new menu items, actually that's not true. At Roppongi, I have 2 employees that went to culinary school, but so they help me sometimes over there with new menu items and whatnot. But if the vault or Elote are doing a special dinner, let's say, because we really focused on events a lot there. Like we would do, you know, wine dinners or cocktail classes or all these kind of private events. When that's happening, I'm spending a lot of time in the kitchen. But we haven't really picked up trying to promote those private events since COVID. We're just not sure. We're not sure what the reception will be. I just don't know about like trying to gather people together for a wine dinner, you know. There's probably a way to do it safely, but we just haven't done that yet. So when that happens, I'll be back in the kitchen because I'm the person who creates the menu and like helps execute it. But right now I haven't been doing a ton at all. I still work shifts at the restaurant. Mostly at the Vault is where I am most of the time. I go to all 3 restaurants almost every single day, but the Vault is where I'm scheduled more often. They're kind of short a manager right now, but because of COVID, I just haven't felt the need to hire another one. So I only work a couple shifts a week there as far as being the actual manager who comes in and goes to the bank and, you know, I mean, the rest of the time I'm at work. I work a lot, but I'm not necessarily tied to one location every day of the week anymore. So, which is kind of nice. I mean, that at the end of the day, I think most business owners, their goal is to at some point get to a point where it can run without you. And I'm getting closer and closer to that. So
good. Final comment from Cole. She says, as someone who grew up in a low-income family, I was very against having ramen in my house. I have a 5-year-old who became obsessed with ramen. This morning, she got to watch some of this meeting, and she freaked out when she found out you own Roppongi. We love your restaurant. So I think
thank you.
She speaks for all of us, any of us who've been to your restaurants. And I haven't been to Roppongi, but I have been to the Vault and to Elote a lot. And it's excellent food. And thank you for sharing so much about what you're doing. I love what you've done to boost the restaurant industry in Tulsa. It's really amazing. It's changed so much in the last 10 years. And I think we have you to thank for a lot of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
As we used to give coffee cups to people to thank them for speaking. Can't very well do that virtually. So what we started doing is making a donation in your name to Rotary International's Polio Fund. So to help eradicate polio. So there will be a donation made in your name to Rotary International.
you.
So thank you for your time this morning. And let me finish off with the final, if I can find it here, final thought for the day. Whenever you do a thing, act as if all the world were watching. And that's from Thomas Jefferson. And I'm sorry that we didn't get to play the induction of our 2 new members. What I will ask Steve to do, I will send him the link. It's already posted on DACDB for those of you who'd like to go out and watch it. It was real special to have our district governor, Jay Craig, there to say a few words to our new members at the end of our induction ceremony. So it's only about 10 minutes, 12 minutes long. And I'll have Steve put that in the fundraiser so you all can link to it directly from the fundraiser, or you can go to DACDB to do that. So does anyone have anything else to add before we sign off? Okay, well, again, Libby, thank you so much. It was a joy to hear you. You're so enthusiastic about what you're doing, and we love it. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks
all. Y'all have a good week. See you next week. And Ellie, look for your Starbucks card. It's coming in the mail.
I did it. They'd never know.